So how can we make our own pipes configurable? Well, this transform method here is not restricted to accepting just one parameter. It must accept at least one parameter because the first parameter is always the value after which the pipe is used. So in front of this pipe symbol here. But you can then add additional parameters here to accept extra arguments for this pipe that make this pipe configurable. And that's what all these built-in pipes do when they do accept input after this colon here. The values passed thereafter are simply extra arguments passed to this transform method. And here I want to accept two extra arguments. An input type, let's say, and an output type. And both should be a string value, though a string that only accepts two kinds of values, Cel for Celsius or FAH for Fahrenheit. So that's my TypeScript type definition for input and output type. So these are now two extra arguments. And indeed, I want to make the output type optional so that if only the input type is specified, we know that the value does not need to be converted, whereas if both are specified, we do need to convert the value from Celsius to Fahrenheit or vice versa. So therefore now, with input type and output type added as parameters to this transform method, after parsing this number before calculating the output temperature, we have to add an extra if check here. And check if input type is equal to Celsius and output type is equal to Fahrenheit. And if that's the case, I want to calculate my temperature as I did it here. Therefore, I'll add a new variable here, output temp, which will be a number. And I'll then set it here with that formula inside of this if block. But that's just one possible case. An alternative condition, which I want to check, is that input type is equal to Fahrenheit and output type is equal to Celsius. Then we want to convert the value in the opposite direction. So then the output temp should be equal to val minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. That's the formula for going from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Well, and last but not least, we have the same input type as output type, or we have no output type at all. And in both cases, the output temperature is equal to the input value, because we don't need to convert anything in that case. So with that, we got an output temperature. But we now also need to derive this symbol dynamically here. And for that, I'll add a new variable, symbol, which is either degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit. So that's again a type definition, where I again accept exactly these two string values as values for symbol. And I'll then set symbol by checking if we don't have an output type. So if that parameter is not provided, in that case, I'll set the symbol based on the input type. So I'll check if the input type is Celsius, in which case I'll pick the Celsius symbol, otherwise the Fahrenheit symbol. Else, if we do have an output type, I'll set the symbol based on the output type. So I'll then check if that is Celsius, in which case I'll set the according symbol and vice versa. And then it's also that symbol that can be injected into this dynamically generated string down there. And that should then therefore give us a transform method that transforms the value from Celsius to Fahrenheit or vice versa, and that then also outputs the according symbol. And back in our template, we therefore now have to pass at least one argument to our pipe by adding a colon and then the argument value. And that should be Cel or Fahrenheit here. And here I'll say that I got a temperature in Celsius but I want to output it as Fahrenheit, and therefore I'll pass a second argument by adding another colon here, and after that we have the value for the second parameter accepted by the temp pipe. We have to specify at least one, but we can specify both, because we do accept up to 2 extra arguments here on our temperature pipe. Well, and with that, if we save this is output as Fahrenheit, just as before. But if I were to switch this now and say that we got a value in Fahrenheit, but it should be output in Celsius, if I switch that and save that, now I got a different conversion and a different value. But we can now also see a problem here. We have too many decimal places here, and it would be nice if we could combine this decimal pipe with our custom pipe. And thankfully, we can do that. Now, when working with pipes, you sometimes have a scenario where pipes should be combined. Like here, where I want to format both the decimal value as well as my temperature output style and the conversion. And you can combine pipes by simply chaining them after each other. So here I could add another pipe symbol and then first use the number pipe and then thereafter the temperature pipe. Now, one problem I'll face here is that the number pipe actually returns a value of string or null, and my temperature pipe only accepts input values that are strings or numbers, not null. So therefore here I want to make that pipe, my custom pipe, a bit more flexible by also accepting a null value as an input, which then just also means that I need to check for a scenario where my value is null. So therefore here I'll check if not value, so if it is not defined or if it is null, and in that case I'll just return that value instead of trying to format it, because there is no value anyways. But with that change made, we can chain the number and temp pipe. And now the input for the temp pipe will simply be the output of the number pipe, which in turn takes this value as an input. So the output of the number pipe is the input of the temp pipe, and therefore if we save this, I still got a strange output here, though not the same output as before. Well, here it's important to understand that we got a different output than before, because the number pipe in the end truncated that input value. So just to make clear that we're on the same page, if I remove that decimal pipe, I got this value here as an output of my custom pipe. And with the decimal pipe, I got a slightly different number output. And that's happening because the decimal pipe changes the input number, it truncates it, and it's then this truncated number that's passed into the temp pipe. But one problem that remains with that is that we potentially get a number as an input that leads to a number with lots of decimal places. And the decimal pipe can't help us here because it can't transform the output of the temp pipe because it doesn't know how to work with a value that has such a temperature symbol in it. So therefore here, whilst we can chain pipes, this is not really a solution that helps us with outputting this number in a nicer way. And it is important to understand that you can combine pipes with each other, that you can chain them, but that this approach still can have limits. And therefore here I actually don't want to chain these pipes. Instead, I'll simply tweak my temperature pipe code and there make sure that when I output my output temperature down here at the end, I call the built-in toFixed method and make sure that I only output 2 decimal places. That's the cleaner approach here, but I wanted to show you how you could chain pipes because it's important to understand that you can do that even though it would not be the right solution in this case. Or to be precise, it would not give us the desired result here. We could have chained the pipes, but here the result would have been kind of wrong. Well, and therefore here now I'll actually adjust this code to convert a Celsius value to Fahrenheit, and I'll then use this here in all these places instead of the number pipe. In all these places, I'll use the temperature pipe and then convert Celsius to Celsius here, or in that case, omit the second argument. Then here Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then here Fahrenheit to Fahrenheit, or again, omit this extra argument. And with that, I got some nicely formatted values here, and we can now also use our pipe to format these values here in this list. Because there I also got some temperature values, and therefore here we can also use the temp pipe and then maybe just assume that they're all Celsius values. So with that, those values look nicer as well.